Welcome everyone to the Writing for Your Life online conference entitled Author Platform Development Through Social Media. My name is Brian Elaine and I produce the Writing for Your Life webinars and in-person conferences and also have the honor to serve as director of the Frederick Buechner Center. Today's webinar is titled What Large Publishers Are Looking For in an Author Platform, and it features Keith Finnegan, Senior Marketing Director for Digital at Zondervan. If you would like to ask questions, please type those into the chat box over at the side, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. Keith, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, you're welcome. It's good to be here. All right. Well, I'm just going to dive right into the presentation here. I'll make the switch over, and you'll be looking at a PowerPoint for most of it until we get to the end with the questions. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to look at before the platform comes the, and we'll answer what the is. What do we mean by platform? And what's the big deal about a platform? What publishers look for in a platform? A solid digital platform model, a solid platform ecosystem, and we're going to look at some examples of some what we consider to be solid platforms. And some of the authors who represent those platforms you'll certainly recognize. And what the platforms have in common, the examples I'm going to show, we're going to look at those. And we'll do a deep dive on the Boundaries platform. It's a platform that I happen to manage, so I can get a little bit behind the scenes on that. And we have a fun little story near the end. CANDACE PAYNE, some of you may know who she is. If you don't, you'll know soon. We'll go over conclusions and then some resources. Okay, before the platform. Well, a lot of you already know these kinds of things, but I think it's important to bring this out. First comes your idea or your story. You have something to say, something for you to say that's going to be valuable to people. And for nonfiction, it's great to have both an idea and a story. And again, you want it to be attention-getting, compelling, memorable, relevant, and in the Christian environment, of course, life-changing. And we also look for not just a great idea and a story, but also passion. What is your passion behind this? Is this an idea or a story that burns in your heart to the point where you can't stop talking about it or thinking about it? Do you genuinely believe in your idea or your story? So we look for those kinds of elements as well. And then your commitment. Are you willing to do what it takes to bring this idea to the world? In the old school approach to publishing, you could get away without being committed and simply hand a book over to the publisher and say, all right, go for it. Sell me some books. But in the new world, that's just not the way it happens today. And we'll look at some reasons why in a minute. And a side note, there are some cases when people have these three elements and a publisher will step in to help them establish a platform and publish them. But that is more of an exception than the rule. So what do we mean by platform? Well, it's good to go right to the source on this, and that is the book Platform by Michael Hyatt. Something that enables you to get seen and heard. And on the digital side, of course, that can include things like a website, blog, social media, email, podcasts, and the like. And offline, it can be things like speaking gigs, TV shows, newspaper columns, etc. So a platform is more than just those elements, but it also includes a tribe or a group of people who are connected to one another, connected to you as a leader, and connected to your idea. And that comes from Seth Godin's book, Tribes, another great resource. So what's the big deal about a platform anyway? Well, in the last few years, technology has really transformed the publishing world. And there's been the saturation of the internet in general and social media channels in particular that have created a direct communication channel between individuals and tribes. And so now you as an author have a direct channel or a direct opportunity to engage with the individuals in your tribe, which is something that did not exist several years ago. But there's also been a transformation in how tribes respond. They're looking now more so to the individual than to the corporate brand. They expect a higher level of trustworthiness and transparency from those they engage with, both corporations and individuals. And so there's that element that comes into play. And then as a result, we also have a loyalty transference. Brands are not viewed quite like they used to be. Tribes now feel loyalty more to individuals than to businesses. They've elevated, and that really elevates author platform to one of the top marketing tools in the publisher's arsenal. Does this really matter in marketing? Well, actually it does. We had a case recently where we were in the process of launching a book, and the author informed us that, I'm sorry, we can't use the platform to promote this book because I've got something else going on right now. Well, unfortunately, the launch was a big disappointment, and it just goes to show how important having an engaged author in that process really is, and how important the platform really is. So what do we actually look for in a platform? Well, I think the obvious answer is number one, size. It does matter, but size alone can be misleading. And things that we also look for, number one is engagement. So if you've got size and you don't have engagement, we see that as a problem. Engagement is really evidence of both audience loyalty or tribe loyalty and author passion and commitment, in our opinion. So when an author is fully engaged with their audience, the audience will respond in kind. And it turns out that the best audience or tribe is the engaged audience or tribe. And the best author is the engaged author. But we're also looking for consistency. Are you communicating regularly on your platform, or are there big gaps between when you communicate to your audiences on various platforms? You need that consistent communication to keep your idea top of mind in the minds of your tribe. But we also look for trajectory. Is your platform growing, staying the same, or shrinking? An upward trajectory is obviously what we want to see, particularly due to the long lead time from the time a contract is signed to when a book is published. But we also want to see breadth. And by breadth, I mean, is your collection of channels sufficiently broad to allow for expanded reach? Can we go beyond into and around those channels to really expand your audience and reach others who would be really interested in what you have to offer? And why do we see this as important? Well, Facebook is not YouTube, which is not Twitter, which is not Pinterest, which is not a blog, which is not a podcast. And I guess what I'm trying to say by that is there is not a lot of audience crossover necessarily between all of those different channels. So you could have pockets of audiences who are on Twitter, they may not be on Facebook. And so you want to make sure that you have a sufficient amount of reach in that marketplace, or sufficient amount of breadth, so that we know you have that reach. And it's also important to note that it's not important to be everywhere. In fact, being everywhere can be very detrimental. You know, there's tons of social media channels out there, and I've seen people who've tried to be everywhere, and it simply becomes untenable. And what I coach my authors about in this regard is to find their most comfortable channels, the channels that they most naturally excel at, and really major on those. So hit a home run in the channels that you most naturally excel at, and don't worry about the rest of them. And another important thing to note is when you're in a particular channel, people often prefer to remain in that channel. So an example of something that I see quite often, excuse me, lunch was good today, by the way. An example of what I see quite often, which I would not recommend, is people sharing Facebook links and Twitter. And the reason that's a bit of a challenge or a bit of a problem is if I'm in Twitter, I want to stay in Twitter. I don't want to have to go log into Facebook and then check out the content. Give me the content in Twitter. I'm a happy camper. And there have been some studies that have been done in the past that actually show that there's quite a bit of difference between the various audiences in the various social media platforms. So again, it's really important that you recognize that. And Facebook itself has actually recognized the importance of keeping people within a particular channel. And their heavy investment in YouTube, I think, is a prime example of that. I take that back. Their heavy investment in video is a prime example of that. Scratch the YouTube thing. They're actually doing that so that they can better compete against YouTube. But now native video in Facebook is really hot, and they're really pushing it big time, and they've done a fabulous job, I think, in actually integrating it into their platform. And last, we also look for location of tribe members. So are your tribe members in the United States? We're a US publisher. We obviously are going to be selling books in the US. We also publish internationally, but primarily most of our sales do come from US outlets. So as a publisher, we're in the business of selling books and to US citizens. So if your tribe does not have a lot of US citizens in it, that presents a bit of a problem to us. Recently, I was doing an analysis of a platform for a potential author, and we discovered that in their 6 million person following on Facebook, that only a small percentage of those people, is roughly 3 to 10%, were in the United States. Well, that's not going to do a lot for us if a good chunk of your huge platform is not in the US. And a note of caution here too. I know it's tempting to really want to juice up the size of your platform by going out there and buying fans and followers, but I would caution you on this. If you do go down that path, be very careful that you don't buy a lot of junk followers. That can happen, and it will severely impact the engagement levels on your platform if you have a bunch of junk followers. And I would say, going back to the engagement element, if you take care of your tribe will take care of you. Something to think about. Moving along. We also take a look at what your platform model happens to be. And here's an example of what we would consider to be a good digital platform model. And yes, I'm focusing mostly on digital because that's what this series is all about. So we won't be touching much on the offline platform, but focusing almost entirely on online. So an example, again, of a solid digital platform is hub and spoke, is what we refer to as what you see here. Now, the recommended hub is a website or blog, and you really don't want to be building platforms over which you have no ownership. So what I mean by that is be very careful about making your hub on a channel that you do not have complete control over. For example, building your hub on Facebook, or building your hub on YouTube, or building your hub on Twitter. The problem is that when those guys come along and they make changes, which they do frequently, it could really mess up your hub big time. Or you could end up, if you had a while back built a hub on MySpace, where would you be today? So just keep that in the back of your minds. It's much better to have something that you control and that you can modify and adapt very quickly and easily on your own. And this is an example of what we would consider a solid digital platform model. Your platform is really part of an ecosystem. And in this example, the blog is the hub with everything else revolving around it. Everything feeds the hub, and the hub feeds everything else. I want to point out a couple of channels in here that I think are special. One of them is email. And how for years people have been trying to get rid of email. They've been saying it's outmoded, that it's really not succeeding like it should. It's dying. I've read, I think just about every year I read an article, and it's been for the last 15 years, I read an article on the death of email. But obviously it's still around and it's still delivering. And it's really a secret weapon of a strong platform. It's the only channel that you have that enables you to initiate a contact with members of your tribe and know that they're actually going to get that particular communication. And it's something that you can grow and own in a sense, as far as the list is concerned. And it can also feed all of your other channels. So it's really a very strong element that we encourage our authors to invest in. SEO, or search engine optimization, is also special. And when we look at some of the example platforms, you'll see how some of them that really major on search engine optimization, it really pays dividends for them. And it can act as a magnet, pulling in more tribe members with great content. And referrals, which are related to SEO in a sense, are simply links to your blog on other people's websites and blogs. So people pointing to you. And just a note on your offline platform, it also, of course, can feed your online platform and vice versa. So that's something to keep in mind too. And just a note on partnerships. Partnerships are a great channel for platform growth. And I was a part of the launch of the Daniel Plan a few years ago. And in that particular launch, I was working with 6 partners, most of whom had a major stake in the project. And the coordinated engagement between all 6 partners is one of the reasons for the successful launch of this #1 New York Times bestselling book, and the subsequent growth of the Daniel Plan platform itself. But an ecosystem needs something to feed it. And that's where great content and engagement come in. Content to your tribe, engaging with your tribe members. That's what really keeps the ecosystem going. So now let's take a look at some examples of solid author and book brand platforms. And one of the things you're going to notice right off the bat is that each of these platforms has a different strongest channel, or a different strongest spoke, if you think in terms of the model. This simply shows that you can have a successful platform by focusing on the channel that you're most comfortable with. Now, they also have other channels, but I'm just bringing out what I believe, after analyzing these platforms, is their strongest one. Also interesting to note that the data, or I shouldn't say interesting, but it's important to note that the data here is from July 2016. So when you go back and check out these platforms, you'll notice some differences, and hopefully those differences are in a positive direction. So Jefferson Bethke, his strongest channel is YouTube, hands down, no debate. He has a phenomenal number of subscribers and views to his videos. Jen Hatmaker, Facebook, no question. I would call Jen the queen of Facebook, as a matter of fact, because of the level of engagement that she gets there is just off the charts. Ann Voskamp, I would say blogging is her strongest channel. And again, she gets a lot of repeat traffic, a lot of direct traffic going right to her blog and her blog posts. A lot of visitors. Ruth Sukup, she has a very balanced channel in a lot of ways, or a very balanced platform. Excuse me. But I think that after analyzing her platform, that really search, or search engine optimization, is her strongest element. She pulls in 35% of her traffic from search alone, natural search. And the Boundaries platform, which is, the hub is boundariesbooks.com, and that's the one I manage. I think the strongest channel there is email. I can't give you those numbers, but they are, trust me, very good. So what do all of these platforms have in common? Obviously, they have some differences. Well, all of these represent New York Times bestselling authors or products. And they all have a very engaged tribe. And they provide great content. And by great content, I mean content that's valuable to the tribe, that has business value, that is timely and delivered regularly. And just want to take a little side note here. Audience value plus business value plus timeliness is equal to something called the triangle of relevance. If you're looking for a great content strategy, which is an essential part of your platform, the triangle of relevance is what I use and I recommend to my authors. And getting back to the slide, these authors and individuals who manage these platforms, they engage directly with the tribe. And by engaging, I'm talking about interacting with those who are interacting with them. They're liking comments, they're retweeting, they're replying to comments, etc. Now let's take a little bit of a deeper dive on the Boundaries platform. Go behind the scenes here a little bit to just give you an idea of, if you work really hard on putting some of these elements together, you can build a really solid, effective platform. And a little bit of history first. The Boundaries platform was launched as an experiment in 2014 to see if we could help boost the best-selling Boundaries books. Sales had been starting to slow down, and we wanted to see how a platform that focuses on these books might help turn things around. Well, in 2015, Boundaries became a New York Times bestseller for the first time in its 20-plus year history, and that was quite something. Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend were delighted when we were able to tell them that. And the platform continues to grow and support ongoing strong sales. And I, again, manage this particular platform. And if you take a look at some of the numbers here, and this, again, from 2016, July 2016, at that time, we were averaging about 27,000 visitors a month. almost 33% were returning visitors, so we're getting this good cycle of readership going on. And the thing that's interesting here, this really rivals the email channel, and that is search engine optimization. Those coming to the site, almost half are coming via organic search. So I could have easily said that search was the #1 channel for this particular platform, but really I think email is. And the email, because the email is going out and hitting a regular group of people on a consistent basis and performing exceptionally well. So about 33% of the traffic is actually coming from email. And we have 12% coming directly to the site, and 76% is from the United States, which we like to see. But because Boundaries is sold internationally, it's also nice to see that 12% is coming from other English-speaking countries. Now, one of the spokes in the Boundaries platform is Facebook. And as you can see on Facebook, we don't have a huge following. In July, we had about 8,400 fans. It's now over 10,000. It's growing organically, at least it was, by about 50 fans a week, and now it's closer to 100. And the average weekly post reach is over 10,000. And that's actually gone up, I would say now, just based on observation, it's closer to 15,000 on average. There's a consistently strong fan engagement going on. And using a tool called Likealyzer, we'll talk a little bit about that later on, I'm able to do an analysis of the page and compare it to other Facebook pages of a similar type. And there have been times when I've done this analysis where Boundaries is ranked as high as #4 of all book series pages on Facebook, right up there with the Divergent series. So that's a pretty phenomenal performance. And what we're looking at here is the top post from 2016. And we had over 38,748 people who were reached by this post. And if you look at a page that has a fan size of 8,400 to 10,000, that's over 3 times the number of people who are actually fans of the page who are getting exposed to this particular post. And to have this ongoing amount of engagement or to have this level of reach, I should say, is just phenomenal when you can get that. And as far as I'm concerned, if I can have a page of about 10,000 fans who are heavily engaged versus a page with 100,000 fans where the engagement is not very good, give me that page with the 10,000. Because that's something that you can eventually grow up to the 100,000 and still have that great fan engagement. The Twitter account, a little bit smaller. It's a little over 2,000 now. Engagement's pretty good. Organic growth continues. And this is the top post here. It's now, as of yesterday, I think when I put these stats in, it's been retweeted 43 times and liked 60 times. Of course, it helps when you pin the post to the top of your channel. But that's another tactic that for another presentation. And email, which I consider to be the strongest channel for the Boundaries platform. We have two lists for the Boundaries platform, a weekly list and a monthly list. And as you can see by these numbers, we got some really strong open engagement rates. Click rates around 6% average, open rates 24–25%. So really good, strong, above average performance on the email channel. Now for a little bit of fun. On May 19, 2016, Candace Payne posted a video publicly to her personal Facebook page. Before she went to bed that night, the video had been viewed by over 5 million people. And if you haven't seen the video yet, I highly recommend that you look it up. It's quite funny, to say the least. And a lot of people thought so. By the next morning, the video had tens of millions of views. And Candace had messages on her answering machine when she returned from running some errands from several prominent media outlets. And suddenly her life had changed dramatically overnight. And the rest, of course, is history. So we were approached by Candace's agent and asked if we'd be interested in going in with her on a book. And we did our research and analysis of her platform. She has a very strong platform. And particularly in Facebook, her engagement levels in Facebook are almost as good as Jen Hatmaker's, which is saying quite a bit. And we really believe that she is not this flash in the pan celebrity, because she has all of the elements that we like to see in an author. She has a compelling story. She's passionate about what she wants to share. She's committed to doing what it takes to bring that message to the world. And so we're delighted to have her as one of our authors going forward, looking forward to working with her and partnering with her on her upcoming book. So I just share this with you to say that sometimes a great platform can get you a book contract in and of itself, and something to think about. And oh yes, you'll have to read the book to get the rest of the story. So, to summarize, your platform is indeed a big deal to publishers. And engagement is very important. Platforms play a significant role in today's marketing plans. Size does matter, but levels of back and forth engagement are even more critical. And again, I'll take a platform of 10,000 engaged tribe members over one with 100,000 unengaged tribe members any day. So publishers are looking for a large platform with strong engagement, consistency, and an upward trajectory and breadth. And we're also looking for tribes that reside mostly in the United States. And again, if you're thinking about building your platform by buying fans, make sure that you specify that those people are that you're only targeting people in the US. Otherwise, you could get into some really, a lot of fake or useless followers that will just drag down your engagement rates. And if somebody sees that like we did, if somebody sees that a lot of your tribe is not in the US, will probably turn down or pass on your proposal. So the hub and spoke platform model is a solid option. In fact, I really can't think of any other models out there that I would recommend. It's not about being everywhere, but being all in where you're at. So if you're the podcasting kind of person, great, major on your podcast. If you're a video person, great, major in YouTube, like Jefferson Bethke did. And then solid platforms may differ significantly, but can be very successful. And as we saw, each one of those platforms had a little bit of a different emphasis. And from CANDACE PAYNE, a solid platform can indeed get you a book deal. Some resources to consider as you look at building out your platforms. The book platform by Michael Hyatt is the resource to get. And it provides step-by-step instructions on how someone can put together a platform and use it effectively. And he does practice what he preaches. So if you go look at his website, you'll see one of our authors, Michelle Cachat, is using a lot of the advice that is found in the book platform. So if you look at her website, you look at Michael Hyatt's website, you'll see a lot of the elements that he recommends in a platform. Book Tribes by Seth Godin, I mentioned that earlier. Another book called Purple Cow by Seth Godin. You may not have heard of Seth Godin before, but he is a marketing guru. In fact, he actually launched what I would say is the first really successful digital marketing campaign ever. When he was with his company Yoyodyne many years ago. And it was a campaign that actually went on for several years. It was so successful. So he really understands the digital realm, but more than that, he understands marketing. He understands bringing an idea to people and how to do that effectively. He understands how to develop a product that really shines and stands out in the marketplace. And that's what Purple Cow is really about. How do you really package that idea or that product that you have in mind? And I think that can also apply to publishing. And the triangle of relevance, mentioned that earlier too. This is a hot link in here to the article on the Convince and Convert blog. And this is, by the way, the #1 read article on all of Jay Baer's Convince and Convert, on his Convince and Convert blog. None of the other articles comes close. And I've had some engagement with Angie. She's really sharp. And this idea of the triangle of relevance is really great in formulating your content strategy. And then the Facebook page analysis tool, likealizer.com, great way to see how you're doing versus other similar pages. And just an FYI, the average page average fan engagement on a Facebook page is around 1% right now. So if you really want to have a successful Facebook page, you want to see that number around 6% and higher. If you can start hitting in that range, you're going to have a successful presence in Facebook. And I think that about covers it.
All right, wonderful, Keith. Thank you so much for all this very insightful information. I think that all of these points that you've made are going to be extremely valuable to all of our audience. We can open it up for questions. And I'll also ask Keith a few questions. So here's one from Mike Burkhart. He's not sure what channel might be the best for him. Do you experiment to see what would work best? Any input on how to narrow in on one's best channel?
That's a very good question. I would start by thinking about what I like doing, what I naturally engage with. Am I a video guy? Do I like playing with video? Do I like talking? Just doing audio? Do I like writing the best? As an author, a lot of authors prefer writing, so blogging becomes a natural channel for them to focus on. In terms of social media, it really, if you're really not sure, I would go with where I know the audience is going to be. There's been a lot said about Facebook and a lot of complaints related to Facebook, but frankly, it's, in my opinion, the best social media channel out there for reaching an audience. And a lot of the advertising that they've really enhanced a lot of their advertising and their advertising methods and so forth. And we've been investing a lot more advertising dollars in Facebook as a result of that. And what it does, if your publisher can actually come alongside you in those environments and say, okay, let me have access to your Facebook channel as an advertiser, and I can actually advertise as you on that Facebook channel and take advantage of all these great opportunities and methods and so forth that I can bring to bear in helping getting your word out there and amplify it on the platform. And it does a couple of things. First, it reaches an audience, so you can really target very narrowly on there. And second of all, it helps build your own platform. So yeah, that's probably where I would start.
So another question from Beth. She has 10,000 email addresses, which is a wonderful number.
Yes.
She's asking what the most effective utilization of that powerful asset would be.
Yes. Well, the first challenge in dealing with an email list is selecting an email service provider to help you deliver those emails to your audience. And this may be new, this may be somewhat new, but anytime you're trying to use a standard email service such as Verizon or YouTube, or Yahoo or Gmail, to do that kind of mass sending of email, not only is it time consuming, it can really get you into trouble with the service provider. But there are services out there that are designed to send massive amounts of email out. And the one that I usually recommend is MailChimp. There is a fee associated with it. It's an online system, which is kind of nice. You don't have to download anything to your computer. Depending on how large your list size is, and I think with 10,000, there's probably going to be a fee associated with that. But what MailChimp does is they do some of the behind the scenes work that helps get your emails into people's inboxes. But one of the things you have to be careful of in the email world is that you're having people opt into your list. So let's assume that this is an opted in list, that all of these people raise their hands and say, yes, I want to be a part of your email list. So assuming that that is indeed the case here, yeah, I would start off with MailChimp and get in there. Yes, there's going to be a monthly fee associated with it, but you're going to be able to interact and engage with those people much easier than if you tried to do it a little bit at a time through a standard email system. And the risk of being labeled as a spammer is far less in using one of those systems.
Yeah, so I would totally support what Keith just said from a couple of different perspectives. First of all, it's absolutely a necessity to use either MailChimp or one of the other online email services. If you send out large volumes of email through a Verizon or Gmail or Yahoo type of account, you will indeed get designated as spam, and obviously you don't want that to happen.
No.
Also, I believe MailChimp is particularly good for people that are just getting started, because I think for under 2,000 subscribers, 2,000 email addresses, it's free.
Yes.
As long as you don't send out more than 6 emails a month to those subscribers, I think is what the limit is up for the free version of it. So a good place to get started.
Yes, indeed.
One of our other clients who uses a much larger volume of emails per month uses iContact. And that is another good platform. We've had very good experience with them. It's not free, obviously, but MailChimp wouldn't be either for the size of volume that we're talking about. So
right.
So anyway, those are at least a couple of different recommendations on that front. Can you comment a little bit, Keith, about what you see as the best type of content to
Yes.
include in emails?
Best type of content in emails in particular?
Yes.
Okay. I think from an author perspective, I have to circle back around to the triangle of relevance strategy. And first and foremost, you want to be providing content that is valuable to your audience, not something that is salesy necessarily, unless you have an audience that's looking for sales, but something that really hits on the felt need or the common idea that your audience is around. An example might be, I recently subscribed to Backpacker magazine. So I am part of a tribe now that follows the experts that are talking in this particular magazine, and they're talking all about backpacking. So whatever your key idea is, or whatever that key piece is that is really what people have came to you in the first place for, major on that, and I think you'll have great success. And we can go into a little bit more depth as to what makes great content, but essentially that might be a subject for another webinar.
It sounds like a good idea. Do you have any, does Zondervan have any rules of thumb for return on investment for either email or social media?
Yes, we do have. I don't think we have, it's more department by department, but in what we like to see, we try to design our emails to get a high click-through rate. So we maybe we have a really teaser piece of content in the email, and the whole intent is to try to get people to click through, to read the rest of the content, to engage more deeply with what's available. So we, in some cases, have been very successful. You see with the Boundaries newsletters. In other cases, we're still working on improving with our general newsletter that we send out from our department, which it's doing well, but it could be doing much better than I think. So we're going to be continuing to enhance and refine and hone that. So that, I guess that would be a KPI, key performance indicator for us, is click-through rate. For social media, it depends on what we're doing. We want to see level of engagement, obviously. So if we're just trying to create awareness, in a social media post, I will design it in such a way that it will be content that grabs people's attention, and usually it's somewhat proverbial. So something that would really grab people's attention, easy to digest, and something that people would like to share. And I will also include some additional content along with that to give some context for it. So I've got the meme that has the shareable, interesting, attention-getting content, a little more context associated with that, and then a link. And so when I analyze the results of this, I'm looking at how many likes it has, how many shares it has, how many comments it has, and I'm really looking at, okay, how many people actually clicked through to get more information about the book. So when I see a lot of that going on and a pretty good number of clicks on the link, I know that we've done well with that particular post.
What about actual book sales? I guess I was really referring to, more of a real dollar, type of ROI analysis. I mean, is there any way that you can correlate email subscriber size or social media engagement increases, for instance, that can correlate to book sale increases?
Well, I will answer that two ways. First of all, I'll answer it via the Boundaries platform. We do not have a direct means of correlating ebook or book sales in general with the Boundaries platform. We only have the anecdotal evidence of the fact that we launched the platform, we've been feeding the platform, growing the platform, and as a direct result, we've seen the curve from sales go like this. So it was on a downward trend. We implemented the platform. It bottomed out and then really started to take off. Became a New York Times bestseller. So in that sense, with that particular platform, the whole idea was to feed the tribe with great content, get them engaged, get them sharing that content, and then getting other people engaged with the Boundaries books. Now, we have another group, in fact, a couple of other groups that focus on e-commerce. Now, these people can drive traffic directly to one of our internal e-commerce sites. And in those cases, we can have a direct correlation between what's happening in the social space or what's happening in an email and the actual number of sales directly from that. And there's also some spillover that happens in those cases, and we can't account for that. And by spillover, I mean you may have an advertisement for a particular book. You send them to your site, and they decide for whatever reason that they're going to go to Amazon, probably because they get a better price maybe, and buy it from there. Or they'll go to Barnes & Noble and buy it from there. Now, we can't control that. We can only see, okay, they came to the site, they left. And so there has been some additional tracking that we've done behind the scenes to see, okay, approximately how many of those people who left actually did buy. And we have some estimates and some ideas on what that is. So it's a kind of a spillover effect, which is an actual economic term, believe it or not. And so we can, to some extent, track that. Now, for some of the campaigns that we run, say email acquisition campaigns, we can track it completely. So we use, for a Facebook campaign, we'd use the Facebook tracking pixel, and we would put that code on the confirmation page. So when somebody accepted our offer, signed up for our email list, they got the confirmation page, and we would know exactly how many of the people who came to that particular page or clicked through to come to it converted and became subscribers. And so we can actually track precisely the amount per subscriber as far as our acquisition cost is concerned.
Okay, good. Well, thank you. I know that that's an area that everyone has a little bit of trouble quantifying.
Yes, it is very difficult to do.
So would you talk a little bit about how you see social media content differing from fiction versus nonfiction authors?
That is a very good question. My area of focus has been nonfiction. So everything I do is nonfiction based and surrounding nonfiction. And I do know that there is a distinct difference between a nonfiction audience and a fiction audience. There's a lot more, for example, there's a lot more interest in experimenting on the fiction side. I may spend a few dollars more, I may pick up a few ebooks because it sounds interesting. Whereas a nonfiction consumer would look at different books. They want to see what other people have to say about these books. They want to know what the content is about. They're not as ready to experiment by going out and just buying something just to try it and see if it's any good. So yeah, it's really difficult to say. I do know that, again, I would have to point back to the triangle of relevant strategy and say, okay, what does your audience really want? What are they really interested in? Why are they your audience to begin with? And what are the sorts of things that they gravitate toward? And experiment with different kinds of content. See which content works the best for your particular audience, and then start majoring on that. And that's something we've been doing with the Boundaries platform, and we've had a lot of success with that. And before, I used to run the Purpose Driven Life Facebook page, and that was before it got merged with Rick Warren's page, and that we grew that from 800,000 to over 3 million in a relatively short period of time. And we were just sharing great quotes and contents, what the people wanted, quotes from the book that were very proverbial, and it was very successful. And most of that growth, that 3 million, vast majority of it, in fact, was organic.
That's very impressive. So for an actual book launch, traditionally, either publishers or authors have spent money on a book publicity professional whose main task was to get the book in front of journalists or book reviewers who are influential and would write things either in print or online, um, hopefully in favor of the new book that was coming out.
Yes.
Now, how do you view return on investment in that model versus the effort that an author could use with, let's say the same amount of money through promotion online directly to their prospective buyers?
That is, again, a very good question. We actually use both of those elements in our book launches. We have publicists who work to try to get the professional reviews. We get reviews on various high-level blogs. We try to get play in big publications that people read on a regular basis. So we've got that going on the publicist side, plus radio, television, and whatnot associated with that. But one of the things we also do is we major on, in a lot of our book launches, not all of them, but a lot of them, we will have a book launch team where we will recruit a group of people who have an affinity with the author, who like the content, and we essentially recruit them to then go out and start helping to spread the word about this particular book. And as part of that, we ask them they will get a free advanced reader copy of the book. And then as part of that, we will ask them to write a review of the book as well. So we kind of go both of those directions at the same time. I would say if an author is doing this on their own and they're investing in it, probably the ground level approach is what I would recommend. My publicist may disagree with me on that, but that's probably the direction I would go. Because I think most publishers are definitely going to handle the publicity side of things. But if you want that ground level launch team kind of investment, that's where I, if I had my choice, would put my money.
Well, I'm not surprised to hear you say that, but certainly kind of goes against the traditional norm within the industry. But I think it represents kind of a migration from the old world to the new world.
Indeed, it does.
And the old world model that we were just discussing is not inexpensive.
No.
There's some great book publicity specialists out there, but they don't come for cheap.
No.
And, say taking that same amount of money and spending it on, giving books away, as you said, to a book launch team, or, paying through Facebook ads to acquire book sales leads, things like that. Those dollars go a long ways in either one of those directions, I think.
Indeed.
So back to something that you talked about earlier in your presentation, Keith, about platform size.
Yes.
I know that that's not the only ingredient, but
right.
Again, for people who are, kind of new to all of this, do you perceive there to be any threshold numbers that, again, all else being equal, and I know this is a difficult thing to comment on that alone, but is there like some minimum number of Facebook fans or Twitter followers that Zondervan feels is a threshold?
We do not have a litmus test as such for the numbers. We take a person's platform and evaluate it in its entirety, both offline and online. And we evaluate who they are as a person and an author, what their message is. Again, those elements I talked about at the beginning, their passion, their commitment. And we take all of that into consideration when we go and sit down and decide, okay, are we going to go with this person and offer them a contract or not? And I really think it would be a mistake to have a litmus test, because there's always that, everyone starts somewhere, and there's some really great ideas out there and by authors who simply just do not have a platform yet. And we have taken risks on authors, where we've come in and helped them develop a platform. We have one of our books right now that is out there and doing pretty well, was one where we came in, the author really didn't have much of a platform at all, and we helped them to build the platform and have come in alongside them, and we're right now seeing whether or not that effort was worthwhile. And from all early indications, it appears that it was worthwhile. So, but then again, I mentioned that was a rarity, but it does happen. And I would say maybe 2 or 3 times in a publishing year, we might be engaged in something like that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, it's kind of what I suspected, I mean, that you didn't have a hard and fast rule,
Right.
that you had more of a holistic approach where you look at an assessment that takes many other factors into view. But, I wanted to see, if indeed there was some number that, you've seen that despite the holistic view still tends to be a threshold.
Nope, there's really not a threshold number. We decided not to bid on a project recently where the potential author had a platform of 6 million Facebook fans. And that is because in our deep dive, we saw that a very small percentage of them were not in the US, so it's not going to help us out.
So how would you compare Zondervan to other Christian publishers, when it comes to online marketing or online marketing from or with your authors?
Well, of course, we're the best.
Well, of course you're the best. We know that. But I mean, kind of, I know that it's never easy to talk about competitors, and I'm not asking you to talk about anybody specifically. But, are there any generalities you can talk to? It's just in terms of how you guys differ from the rest of the industry on some of these areas?
I think one of the things that we really try to do is when we approach the whole aspect of marketing and digital marketing in particular, is we try to really tailor a plan to the author's strengths and a plan that we think is going to work for the content that the author's producing and to where the author really excels. So I know other publishers probably do that too. I don't know I've not worked for another publisher, so I can't say for sure, but we really try hard. We're not a cookie cutter type of publisher where we say, okay, we're going to spend X amount here, X amount here, X amount here, and you're done. It is, okay, this is who you are, this is what you're about, this is where you are, this is where your audience is at, here's where we're going to invest the dollars to try to reach the most people to get your book in their hands, is really what it boils down to.
So can't get you to say anything about how you're better than XYZ, huh?
Well, I really can't say, without getting behind the scenes with these people, but I do know just from casual observation that a lot of publishers out there are really getting it, that they're working hard to exploit the digital space, and they're having some success at it. I mean, it's not rocket science. It does take a little bit of energy, effort, and work to figure out, and some talent, of course, to really make it happen. But yeah, from what I've seen out there, there's some publishers that are doing very well in the digital space along with us.
Yes, no, I would agree with that, Keith. So, Keith, we really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for all this valuable information. I'm sure it's going to be very helpful to our subscribers. And thanks again for joining us.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.